Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Conversations about Art. My name is Alan Constant. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm here with Paul Rowland, who lives right outside of Tokyo, Japan. Today, we're going to be talking to Bob Voigts. He's a collage artist who lives right outside of Chicago, Illinois. So, welcome, Bob.
Thank you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, glad to have you with us today. I'd like to start off by just asking you how you got involved in doing collage and how you got to where you are right now.
I have always loved art ever since I was a child. So I drew and created things. I think in sophomore year in high school, I took my first art class, loved it. By the time I was a senior, I had a piece that went to New York for a big competition. That was really amazing. It kind of opened my eyes to, maybe I could do this. And I studied art in college. Um, Never had the chutzpah to move to New York and become a famous painter, but that's what I wanted to do. Uh, I took a detour. Um, I got married, started a family, started a graphic design business, and that has lasted about almost 40 years now. I've been doing that and uh, kind of winding that down. Um, I would say in the 70s, before I was married, I experimented with collage with a friend of mine. We collaborated a lot. He was one of the most creative people I ever met. And we did a lot of art experiments, and collage was one. We did exquisite corpse and kind of impromptu installations in old abandoned buildings. And we just really experimented, music too. And that experience of doing collage back then really stuck with me in my mind. So flash forward to the pandemic, and I got an iPad, and I started doodling on an iPad. I had no idea what I was doing. Uh, it sort of grew, and then at some point I thought, I've got all this collage material sitting around that I've collected since then. And so I started taking pictures of it and sort of building collages on the iPad using Procreate. Loved it. I would do graphic design in the day, and then in the evening I'd sit in front of the TV with my wife and create collages. And it was great. And you start off slow. I started putting them on Instagram, and uh, it just grew and grew. And pretty soon I had a bunch of followers, and people were liking what I did. And then at some point I decided to set up a studio in my basement, and that's what I did. I had a bunch of material I collected already, and then I just started, roaming around, grabbing stuff here and there, and it kind of grew from there. I've been doing analog collage now probably 4 years, 4 or 5 years. So that's how I got into it.
So, what college did you go to?
A little tiny school in Arkansas, liberal arts college, Harding University.
And you were actually a painter during that time.
I dabbled in painting off and on.
You still do painting once in a while?
The last one I did, um, I was invited to be in a show in France,
Oh,
and I told the guy, "Well, I don't have any paintings." He said, "Well, if you want to send a collage, go ahead." So I bought a canvas and did a painting and put it into the show, and that inspired me. I did another one. The one behind me is one that I've done. Uh, it's based on a digital collage that I did. So my goal is eventually to use my designs that I did on the iPad, convert them to paintings. I haven't done it yet.
yeah, the painting behind you looks like one of your collages, so it all just seems to fit together.
That's my goal, is sort of merge collage and painting. Collage is just really easy.
Oh, mhm.
Painting is much more involved with tools, water, the acrylic medium or oil, whatever you're doing. It's a lot more technical, I think. So anyway.
Okay, let's take a look at some of your work. This first piece, my first reaction looked like it's on its side, but I assume that's intentional.
This is the correct orientation, yes. I do rotate my pieces a lot as I'm building them to see which works better. And I tried to flip this and I actually take pictures of the collage and put it into Procreate, and then I can play around with orientation, cropping. So I just like the way it was laid out, the way I originally built it. I didn't crop it. Um,
So when you start a piece, do you have an idea in your mind what you want to do, or do you just kind of gather pieces and experiment and try putting different pieces together?
I am pretty much completely experimental. I rarely have a plan. The paintings I do, I just kind of draw it out, but with collage, it's really spontaneous. I prefer to be surprised by what happens as I'm putting it together. I think it's much more exciting, more interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've ever even planned out a collage. I don't think I have. I select the material spontaneously too. My studio is a mess, so there's paper everywhere. I'm not organized in that way, so it's really to me a dialogue with myself in my head, my moods, my intuition. It's sort of a dialogue with the last few pieces I've posted on Instagram and people's response and my audience. And I just kind of go from there and I just kind of see where it leads me.
Well, it seems like with collage, even if you have an idea in your mind that you want to try to create, it seems like it'd be really hard not to digress and go in different directions.
This piece, I want to mention something. The black and white pattern on the left is some paper that I bought probably 20 years ago, and I think it's made in Japan. I used it to cover a book that I built in a class that I took. That paper has been floating around my studio all this time, and I've never found a way to use it. And every time I try it, I just don't like it. I was really pleased when this collage happened because it just seems perfect.
And that blue strip coming down out of it, that's just a piece you cut out some place and put there.
Yes, that is probably a large book plate with a margin. On the right, you can see the white and the blue together. That's one strip of paper. The flower stems are an old print, flowers, tulips, I think, and the glassware on the right. I found a whole book about glassware in a Goodwill store. So I just cut a strip of that and put it there. That's a piece of an index card at the bottom right. Just a strip of that. I cut that. I like to work in index cards every once in a while. I like the way they look.
I'm always intrigued by collage because there's such disparate elements, piece after piece. You just seem to use your intuition and make it all work somehow. I'm not sure how you guys do it.
Thank you. Yeah, it doesn't always work, but I'm doing pretty good. I kind of build it as I go. So I start with one or two pieces, I glue it down, and I generally glue as I'm building. A lot of people assemble the whole thing and then they glue it together. I don't do that. I glue a piece down and then I look for another piece and I glue another piece down. It's building slowly as I go.
So once you glue something down, then you just look for something that somehow goes with what you've already done, right?
Yes, I'm following like an intuitive impression of what the collage, kind of what the collage is telling me it wants to do. That's how I feel about it sometimes. I use all the visual standard artistic principles, of design and composition. They're all in my head from years of studying art, but I do try to break them sometimes so that you get something new, something you haven't seen before. So it's a tension between following the rules and breaking the rules.
Okay, great. Let's go on to your next image. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is more complex.
pretty much the same. Sometimes I get in a mood where I want to do something more complex with a lot more images. I've done a few that have even more than this. I kind of think of these as paintings. I'm looking at them as a whole composition, and I'm putting different colors and shapes in position to make a composition. There's all sorts of collage techniques that people try. Some people they limit what they're going to build with from one magazine. They're going to take images from one magazine, one page, cut it up and assemble it in a different way. Some people cut out all the objects in a picture and assemble those. So there's all different ways. But I think I'm a painter at heart. So this to me, I look at that and that's a painting. It's just made with paper instead of paint. I use a lot of catalogs from, Land's End, and I just tear up little images. So you can see a bit of a boot on the right there from some catalog. It says dark corkwood, I think. I have certain images that I enjoy, like old pictures of animals, boots, clothing. The number two at the bottom, when you take your car in to get serviced and they hang it on your mirror, it's got a hole cut. It has a number. So that's from one of those. And this one's built on a old album cover. So I go to Goodwill and buy 20, 30 albums. I don't care what the music is. I'm just using the cover.
Bob, when I was looking at your collages in preparation for this, a quotation from the French writer poet Paul Valéry kept coming into my mind. A poem is never finished, only abandoned. Maybe it's this idea that there's no such thing as a perfect poem, or later you sort of think about it, reflect on it, you want to come back and edit something. I had the same feeling about your collages. Not that you've just abandoned them and given up, but
Yeah.
there's a lovely sense that they're still open to interpretation. How do you know when something's finished? And are they finished?
That's a great quote. I love that quote. It is kind of open-ended. Usually, when a collage is successful, I know it and I stop. But sometimes there are collages that are unfinished, and I have them laying around the studio, and I will go back and work on them. In fact, I did that this morning, actually, before we got on. I can't explain how I know it's done. It looks ready. It's like I don't want to go on with it. I do think of my collages as poems also. That appeals to me, that idea. So yeah, I think that's the answer. It's just a sense that it's done. I do look back, and usually I don't think, oh yeah, I should have done this. Occasionally, but
Hmm.
Do you ever feel like you've gone too far?
oh yes, this one has a lot of white space. There are certain collage types that I do that are very dense and lots of color that fill the whole thing. And I think, overdo those kind of collages, in my opinion. I think it's better when I have a little breathing room around the images like this one has.
If you ever go too far, are you able to go back and continue working with it until it gets to a place where you're happy with it?
I would say that's rare. What I've done sometimes is take a collage that I don't like or don't feel like it's worth anything, and I'll cut it up into pieces or I'll tear it and use it in another collage. So I have recycled bits of collages that I didn't like. I'd say that's a tricky process to me. But when it works, it's really good. That's how I'll say it. It's, I have some old cut up collages that I've added to another piece that I'm working on, and it's just spectacular. Usually, it's very hard to get that done.
Okay, let's move to the next one though.
Can I come back to that idea about you thinking of your collages as poems for a minute?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of text at the top of this one, ever. There's a 33. I don't know if you put that there, if that was already there. There
It's
was some
already there.
text in the previous ones, but also I'm fascinated by your titles. At first, I thought there was a glitch. I thought there was some problem. And then when I was looking at your Instagram gallery again, I noticed that they're all very intentionally like, misspelt and broken up. They're like collages themselves. They remind me of E. E. Cummings poems as well. Can you tell us a bit about the relationship between text, image, and title? I'm very, very intrigued.
Well, I wish I could explain it, but I will try. I love E. E. Cummings, very influential in my titling. I love surrealist poetry. I love Dada poetry. I did a lot of experiments with that friend of mine back in the 70s in Dada and surrealism. I say the titles kind of appear to me in my mind as I'm looking at the piece, and I never title anything until it's done. So I'm looking at it, and sometimes it's like pulling teeth to come up with a title. Sometimes it just comes into my mind and perfect, that's it. I used to go to E. Cummings literally or other poems and find bits of words and just put them together. Now I don't do that as much. I love the way you described it. The title is a collage as well. It is in my mind. And I like the interaction between the two, the visual and all the words. I love the punctuation and the kind of the mixed up way of presenting it. I'm getting a little tired of it. I'll tell you. I'm thinking about going back to just plain English, but we'll see.
Oh, you're still experimenting. And I know you talk about how you're following your intuition, you don't have a plan, but this one, particularly this collage, seems like a bold statement. You know, you've got maybe, I don't know how advertising is the unconscious of America. I don't know, you've got this natural landscape undermined by it. You've got this, hand flung up, drowning at the top. I mean, really, is it just intuition? There must be some kind of intentional meaning here.
Well, let me tell you how this one started. The bottom part is a painting that I did in a color theory class in 1972, my first year of college. I took color theory. So I had to draw some kind of abstract shape with colors. And on the back, there's a color chart that I had to do with the values and the intensity of each color. So I've had that thing laying around forever. I tend to hang on to stuff like that. And I saw it one day and I thought, why don't I add that in a collage? Why don't I use it? So it's the whole backing is that little piece that I created for class. So I tore the old, I think it's an old science book picture of the Monument Valley, probably in Arizona. The top strip was purely spontaneous. I put that hand up there. I love the word ever. 33 was probably on the painting that I did for class. That's probably my grade. Actually, 33 on a not a scale to one to 100. I'll put it that way.
But how do other people reconstruct meaning in your collages? What kind of comments do you get? Have you had any exhibitions? How do people respond to these collages?
I have some real faithful followers on Instagram, and I get a lot of comments. This piece, there's a collage artist, Miranda Millward. She has this now. We swapped collages, so now this is in Oxford. I don't know. People see a lot of things in my collages that I don't see, and so they'll tell me in comments, and I love it. I don't know if I got a specific comment on this one, but this is one of my favorite pieces. The rock formation looks like a glove. It kind of has it has a 70s look, the bottom part. It was actually created in the 70s, which I love. So,
Okay, let's move on. Oh, wow. This is like a head trip.
yeah. This is a digital collage. This is one of my early successes in digital collage. I took a lot of images, cut them up. This is a flyer for Home Depot, I think. This girl sitting at an office desk at a computer, and it's just basically deconstructing, reassembling, adding strips of color. I had an iPad full of images that I would cut up and use to assemble collages. Yeah, this one I loved it when I did it, but it got such a phenomenal response. One of the highest like counts I ever got. It was pretty cool.
I know we don't do it for likes, but it's sure nice when you kind of hit the spot. A lot of people recognize that.
Yeah, it's fun when you see it take off. Yeah, I didn't know. I never know when I post something, who's going to like it, what it's going to do. But this one would really took off. I have tons of unfinished digital collages on my iPad, hundreds and hundreds of them.
So do you mostly do analog work now, or do you still use your iPad?
100% analog now. I haven't done a digital collage in probably 2 years now. I really wanted to do analog. I just hadn't tried it yet, and digital was so easy and quick, and But now that I'm into analog, it's just there's no going back for me. This one is called Fugue. One of my favorites. Different catalogs. I use a lot of catalogs, IKEA catalogs. This is built on probably a cereal box, cardboard cut up. You can see the Post cereal logo up in the top right, a little bit of that. An old photograph of a an antler from back in the 70s. I found this old book of animals from like early 1900s in zoos. It's been a great source for me over the years. I'm almost out of it now. I don't think I have any left. I've used them, pretty much all of them. So this one again built slowly over probably a few hours, 2 or 3, 4 hours, just pulling in different elements, assembling them in a way that speaks to me, says something. The title I can't explain, but it made perfect sense at the time.
As I talk to you and I'm talking to other collage artists, I'm kind of getting the sense that collage art cannot be taught. You just have to have a feel for it or you don't. Is that accurate?
Collage is really accessible and anyone can do it. I would say the top of the line collage artist, you have to have a something special, to do what they do. But everyone can do something, and often phenomenal pieces. It's because it's so open to interpretation. It's so free. It's limitless almost.
And looking at this piece, I'm kind of wondering, once you're done, do you feel like you're making some kind of statement or message, or is it just really random?
I think it has meaning, but you can't quite put your finger on it. But the word fugue, that was one title that just came to me. I like the top part is like coming forward at you, and the bottom part with the shadow is very dramatic. The basket is actually a chair. It's a big chair in the IKEA catalog, and I really like that play of the depth of that. And fugue, the idea to me, fugue state, like you're sort of in a zone and kind of out of it. That's the use of the word I think of. It also could mean a musical piece, a fugue.
Yeah, Bob, there's a real sense of yeah, playfulness, experimentation, of course, but this kind of subversive sense of humor as well. There's always an irreverence in putting, well, cutting up things, ripping up things, chopping up, shopping catalogs and so forth.
Yeah,
And these weird juxtapositions, this randomness, creating new meanings. Um, I just, I love that subversion. Like, where does that come from? Why do you like that? What does it say about you?
I think it's my sense of humor. Yeah, I think I have an irreverent bent and a bit of a dark humor sometimes. I like the idea of um, using your mundane, everyday, catalog images, but doing something with them that is a little slightly dark, slightly off-putting, but beautiful at the same time. I really appreciated the humor of the Dada artists. I was really grabbed by that when I first studied them. Marcel Duchamp was a big influence way back. He was quite into humor, and yeah, I think I was influenced in that direction.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
This color palette, I love primary colors, and that's the first thing that jumps out at me. I just love the primary colors you're using here.
This is one of my earliest pieces of analog collage. It's very messy. I'm a very messy artist. A lot of my pieces have a lot of discoloration and smudges, and this image of the deer is from that old book that I found way back in the 70s, and I just cut it. I like cropping images so that you don't see the whole thing. I just love the way that deer just contrasts with the rest of the kind of happy colors, and it's a little bit foreboding, a little bit sinister. I I did I think this is the blue is oil stick, and I early on I would use oil stick on collages. I haven't done that a lot lately, but instead of doing a color paper, I would just draw with oil stick, and it takes forever to dry, but
Do you just collect a bunch of old magazines and, well, you said catalogs too, but
I don't get a lot of magazines, and I need to find a source. I would like to, but I usually go to Goodwill, and they have books, old books, and then they have albums. That's really about the only thing. Everything else, I'll use junk mail sometimes that comes in the mail and cut it up. And I've collected a lot of stuff just randomly over the years. But oh, I was going to say, you see the little like maroon color piece sort of in the center with the S shape.
Yes.
So that is a little bit of a packaging design that I did way back, probably 20 years ago. After I designed this packaging, the company sent me a bunch of samples. So I had all these boxes and bags that I had designed. It was just a dinnerware, plastic dinnerware company. They did cups and all sorts of plastic materials. So I did all their packaging for a while. So that's a little piece. I loved using the old packaging designs. I love packaging in general, cereal boxes and anything. So that's what that piece is from.
We talked about music as well earlier, and like Alan, I'm desperately trying to, kind of, how to say, reverse engineer these collages and work out how did he do it? What is that intuition? It comes from somewhere. You've talked about your background in graphic design as well. How
Yes.
does music and maybe other arts kind of interact with this? Like what? I like that idea of music and rhythm, and there's clearly a harmony and a melody between the colors going on. How does that work for you?
I'm not a musician. I wish I was, but I appreciate music. I listen to a real wide variety of music, so I think my taste in music is like my taste in visual art. It's extremely wide. I don't specifically think of music as I'm doing it, but I think it's in my head. And I know rhythm, rhythm and dynamic movement in music is a big part. It translates to the visual art as well. So I think I'm aware of that, but I can't say I consciously think of it as I'm composing a piece of music. I don't. It doesn't work that way. But sometimes music titles and lyrics will be in my head. But it's all just kind of a mix, a soup of stuff, and it just comes out. We did experimental music with this collaborator guy that back in the 70s, and so we would use reel-to-reel tapes and create these really unusual sounds. I loved it. It was really fun. I haven't done it in all that time, but
That does sound very cool. I did notice, did you do a collaboration with somebody or a few artists on Instagram?
yes, I have two or three or four maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that work? How do you collaborate with collage?
Usually someone creates puts down a base, they have some images and they send it by mail to you and you finish it basically. You just add to it what they've started. One collaboration, I curated a bunch of materials and sent it to the other artist, and then they did the same for me. So we just swapped materials and built stuff from that.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. I love collaboration. Things occur, you create things that you would never have done otherwise. And Bob, just when you were talking about music and how, your mind is basically just this huge mashup of everything you've experienced in your life. Increasingly, I feel that all artists, well, I think all people, but in artists, it's more obvious. There's that kind of synesthesia, that crossing of senses, that Kandinsky and all sorts of other artists had. And like you say, you can't describe it. It's very difficult to put your finger on exactly because it is more of a sense, almost like a tactile sense. But it is very clear to the viewer when it comes out. There is that feeling for rhythm. There is that understanding of music that comes out, even if you're not operating consciously on that level.
But you just beautifully expressed what I was fumbling around trying to say.
Well, it's easier from another point of view.
Oh,
You're the
yeah.
one actually making the work.
This one has a lot of white space. It kind of has a border all the way around of white space. You see the numbers, all the little floating numbers on the left side and right. That's a book that I found in a Goodwill. It has these really elaborate connect the dots images. So I love those. I love throwing them into collages. I like numbers floating around. It looks like it means something. This one is just pleasing. I don't know what I was thinking when I did this. Yeah, this one, I love it.
I'm wrestling with how to ask something here. Some of your, like especially the last piece, you lay down just scraps of paper and it works. Do you lay it down first before you glue it to make sure it kind of works for you?
Yes, I do. So I'll put a few images first on the board, and then I'll start slowly adding them. And I'll find a piece and I'll lay it there before I glue it, get it, or I'll move it around to different parts of the image. It's just slowly built up. So the big red strip, I found that I laid it on the collage, see what it looked like. I liked it, so I glued it down. It just builds layer by layer in that way.
You mentioned with the last image, you're kind of a messy collage artist,
Yeah.
but the smudges, I think, really add something to it.
Thank you. I sometimes I wish I was neater, and less messy, but oftentimes it works. It gives it kind of an aged look, and yeah, glue is messy, gets all over my hands, my clothes, constantly wiping gunk on my pants that are just completely caked with paint and glue. I want to see how the sausage is made, I think.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm kind of thinking of. Oh, wow.
Yeah, this one's really graphic, I guess you would say. So a story about this image of the guy. I've had that image for years and I've tried to use it somewhere and I just couldn't find anything that worked. This was a collage that I made for an open call for a really cool collage artist who created a book. I found a use for piece of this image, the yellow shaving cream, the whole thing. I don't even know where I got it. I can't remember now. The back part that is a catalog for I think the kind of foam board or boards that you put in a ceiling, a drop ceiling. You can see all the patterns there. I think that's a car ad at the top. I just sliced a piece of that off, and it just all kind of fit together. One of my favorites.
Bob, as you mentioned, the almost childlike playfulness and fun you're having with this, I kind of feel a slight regret in trying to like over intellectualize these things. I'm asking you what's the deeper meaning, and you're just saying, well, I'm following my feeling, I'm just trusting my intuition. And I think that's one of the things I love about collage the most. Not that it's superficial in any sense or there isn't a deeper meaning, but it's not thought out in advance, that you're not trying to communicate some sort of message, for example. Not that art should necessarily at all. The response that I have to it is, oh my God, I just want to do that. I want to touch it. Oh yeah, I want to rip some stuff up. I want to just follow my intuition and trust my feelings, which is, I think, such an important thing for all human beings to just be reminded of, like to readjust that balance. I think we think too much, and good God, I've just got to do this myself. Alan and I say this every single time we speak to a collage artist. But I think this time it's my summer vacation. I'm going to do it myself now. You've inspired me once again. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so easy to do. That's the thing. I mean, you don't have to go to class to learn how to paint in oils, and use the proper brush and all that. It's really, really simple. I mean, you may not like what you do, but I didn't like what I did at first, but I'm very persistent. Every weekend I am in my studio working. I do probably 3 or 4 collages every weekend, maybe sometimes more.
That's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to follow your lead.
Yeah, do it.
Thank you.
On this one, I keep looking at that face, and even though you don't see the eyes, it feels very expressive and it gives the collage a very poignant feeling, kind of in a way that I haven't seen in other collages. So it just feels really powerful to
Yeah, it really came together well, I think. There's something about his face that is very serious, but also kind of absurd with the shaving cream on his face and the fact that it's yellow. And I still don't know what was going on here with where I got this. I can't remember, but I've hung on to it. That's the key. You got to hang on to these things until they work. I did a whole series of portraits of poets, and this is Sylvia Plath. I have not read everything. I've read a little of all of the different poets that I did, but I think I did 30 or 40 different poets. I love this one. I love the fact that there's a portrait within a portrait at the bottom. I love the really chaotic nature. A lot of these portraits of poets were very chaotic inside. So what I would do, this is an old collage actually. So I was working on this collage, didn't like it, never posted it. And at one point, actually not this collage, but the original one that I did, I was working. Nothing was working, didn't like it. So then I had the idea to paint with acrylic paint a silhouette of a head so that it looked like the collage was the inside of a person's head and their thoughts. So that expanded. I started doing them over and over again. So this is Sylvia Plath. Again, it's just a feeling for collages. I recycled a lot of old collages I didn't like, and I created a portrait of a poet from that. I didn't include more. I should have included more here so you could see the different range, but they're all very chaotic like this. I picture her with all these thoughts in her head, and the border of her shape is like the her interaction with the world. To me, it's like the inner and outer tension and chaos.
Wow, this is fascinating.
This one I'm very proud of. This was the very first piece that I did when I did the collaboration with the guy who sent me his materials and I sent him mine. This piece actually got accepted into a show up in Wisconsin, into an art museum, and September 4th through 7th, I'll be going up there for the opening of the exhibition. It's a bird art museum. I'm not a bird artist, but on a whim, I decided to enter this, and it got in. So he sent me a bunch of Chinese characters and different diagrams like that, whatever it is. I'm not sure what it is. One cell creature, maybe. And yeah, he just sent me a whole variety of things, and I just cut it up, assembled it.
Another technical question, I see a lot of torn edges. So do you mostly just tear things or do you actually use scissors once in a while?
I never use scissors, so I'll either tear or use an X-Acto blade with a ruler. So if I want a straight edge, I'll cut it with an X-Acto blade.
And I'm guessing most of these are like 8 by 10 size. Is that accurate?
A little bigger, 12 and a half, 12 and a quarter by 10 and a quarter. That's an album jacket cut. I'll cut it to that size. I don't like square collages, so I'll cut it a little bit so it's portrait mode. I build them on different surfaces in different sizes. I've got some on canvas that are like 16 by 20.
Bob, I just had this thought that I feel a bit like an alien anthropologist discovering fragments of human civilization. Have you ever heard of Martian poetry? It was just a short-lived school of poetry, and they were trying to look at our life from a kind of, an outside point of view and trying
Yeah.
to defamiliarize things. And this weird juxtaposition of, just random elements really makes me think of that. I love what you're doing to my head. Like I can't follow just the conventional narrative. I have to try to find the connections between these things. So you make me feel a little bit like an alien in our own world. It's really creative. It's really fun.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's my aim. I've not heard of Martian poetry. That sounds fascinating. I mean, did people write poetry based on a style of being an alien? Is that
Well, yeah, that was just the general approach. There was a British poet called Craig Raine who wrote a famous poem called A Martian Sends a Postcard Home. And in a sense, it was a bit like a series of riddles because the reader has to try to work out what is the alien looking at. And I guess all poetry does that kind of defamiliarization. And talking about Sylvia Plath, she sees the world in a different way, right? She's kind of rewiring our imaginations at the same time. But I feel, there's a really deep connection between what poetry does, because after all, a metaphor is putting two things that don't normally belong with each other, right next to each other, saying that they're literally the same thing. And you're just doing that without any explanation. It's just like, here you are, bird, kanji, single-celled animal, advertising from the 1950s, and then just deal with it. I love that kind of interaction that you encourage with the viewer. Yeah.
Okay, you perfectly expressed what I do. I love this. Can you be my PR agent?
If I get paid, yes. I don't know how much money there is in collage though.
Not much yet.
I'd willingly do it for free though. Yes.
No, I never explain my collages. I try not to. Any kind of meeting, I just put it out there. I say, figure it out. There are some things.
Well, sorry for forcing you today, but I appreciate your all of your thoughts.
Oh, that's good. I need to. I need to think about what I'm doing more.
Well, unfortunately, we need to wrap this conversation up, but boy, that was just great, getting a closer look at your work and hearing you talk about it. So I really appreciate your willingness to participate with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate you asking me. I know you kept after me. I didn't really want to do this, but yeah, yeah,
I'm glad you did. So thanks so much, Bob.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.